Hello again and welcome back to the channel. This is Michael from TOEFLresources.com, and today I am very happy to present the 2018 edition of my guide to the first TOEFL speaking question. Now, in today's video, I'm going to begin by describing the 5 main styles of TOEFL Speaking 1 questions, including the new advantages and disadvantages style. I will continue by giving you templates that you can use to answer all of these questions, and I will conclude by giving you 2 sample answers, and I will tell you exactly how I created those sample answers using the templates and some grammar and vocabulary techniques, which I think lead to higher scores. So with that out of the way, let's get started by describing the 5 basic question styles. Now, I do want to warn you that TOEFL Speaking 1 and TOEFL Speaking 2 are sometimes reversed or repeated. This won't be a big deal because if you watch my video about TOEFL Speaking 2, you'll notice that those questions are very, very similar to TOEFL Speaking 1. I just mentioned this now so you're not surprised on test day. I want everything to be as easy and predictable as possible. All right, so the first question style is what I refer to as the pure experience style. Those questions look a little bit like this. Describe a time when you felt especially proud of an academic achievement. Describe why you felt that way. Include details and examples to support your explanation. Or it might look like this. What is the most memorable experience you have ever had while working on a task in a group? Include details and examples to support your explanation. So as you can see, you're just relating some details about an experience from your past. These questions are easily answered using the templates I'm going to give you in just a couple minutes. Next is the multiple choice style question. Those will look a bit like this. Which of these methods do you think is the best way to prepare for a test? 1, studying alone. 2, studying with friends. 3, asking a teacher for help. Include details and examples to support your explanation. Or it might look like this. Which of the following among campus facilities, teaching staff, and reputation do you think is most important when choosing a university to attend? Include details and examples to support your choice. So you can see how this is a multiple choice style question. Usually you're going to get 3 choices. Be prepared for 4 choices. Maybe even 2. No matter, you're answering it with some simple templates, and indeed, you're using the same templates pretty much exactly the same for the first 4 question styles. So don't panic if the question looks a little bit unfamiliar. You're going to use the same templates that I'll give you in a moment. Next up is the giving advice style question. Looks like this. A friend of yours is having frequent disagreements with one of his teachers. What advice would you give to your friend about how to solve this problem? Or like this. One of your friends is often late for important appointments. What advice would you give your friend about how to be more punctual? Punctual means that you show up on time, by the way. So as you can see, clearly the question is asking you about advice that you would give to someone. Style 4 is the opinion style. It looks like this. Your university has decided to reduce the amount of money it spends on campus libraries. What is your opinion and why? Use details and examples to explain your position. Or, what is the most important characteristic of a good parent? Use details and examples to support your opinion. Again, it's asking for your opinion on something. You're answering these with the templates I'll give you in a moment. It's the same template as the first 3 question styles. Now, style 5 is kind of new. It's called the advantages and disadvantages style. It's showing up in the last year, maybe the last 2 years. Looks a bit like this. Some people like to take classes online instead of attending them in person. What are the advantages and disadvantages of this trend? What do you prefer? Use details and examples in your response. Or, your university is planning to make class attendance optional. What is your opinion and why? What are some advantages and disadvantages? Use details and examples in your response. Now, this question, as you can see, is fundamentally different than the first 4 styles. For that reason, I'm going to give you separate templates at the end of the video. I will also give you a sample answer as well. So just keep watching. This one is new. It's not covered in a lot of the textbooks, and it's certainly not covered in a lot of YouTube videos that are more than a couple years old. Don't be surprised if you get this question. It does show up. All right, so first of all, let's talk about answering the first 4 question styles. Just the first 4, not the advantages and disadvantages style. How do you do it? How do you answer one of these questions? Well, if you've seen any of my videos, you know I love the use of templates to give structure to answers. Now, I should mention that templates are sometimes a little bit controversial with TOEFL teachers. Some teachers, some videos, will tell you that you should not use a template in any of your answers. They tell you that the TOEFL graders are trained to punish students who use a template. They tell you that those graders are given a list of templates. They're given copies of videos that teach templates and are said, if you see these on the test, if you hear any of these on the test, you should deduct points. Frankly, that's just not true. That's not true at all. If your teachers are telling you that, they're wrong. Either they're misinformed or they want your job to be a lot more difficult so that you'll hire them to teach you. But don't listen to them. Use a template for all of your answers. I promise it's gonna work. All right, so a template for the first TOEFL speaking question goes a bit like this. Start by stating your main point and use a phrase like one of these. A time when in my opinion, I would advise my friend to, or just, I think that. As you can see, the first line is going to differ based on the style, right? So if it's asking you for a pure experience, you're going to use a time when I. If it's asking you to give advice, use I would advise my friend to. Follow up that main point with a transitional sentence. I feel this way for 2 reasons is a classic. Or you could say this was, fill in the blank, for 2 reasons. This one's best for the pure experience style. So you're going to say this was memorable for 2 reasons. This was important to me for 2 reasons. This was really happy for 2 reasons. I think you get the point. Or you could say, I would suggest this for 2 reasons. That's obviously used for the giving advice style. Then you need to state your first reason. Just say first and give me the reason, and then add on to that with for example. and give me a personal example that illustrates this in a few sentences. Finally, you need to state your second reason. Just say second and state that reason. Then use the transition to be more specific and elaborate on that. Generally, you should elaborate on that without a personal example. I don't think you have time to mention your personal history in both of them. So just mention your personal history in the first reason, and then in the second reason, just elaborate on what you're saying. Okay, so that's your template. Just keep in mind that the transition is optional. If you speak a bit slowly, you can cut this out, and I don't think there will be a major consequence. So how do we actually use this? Well, let's talk about a sample question, and then I'll give you a sample answer. Here's the question. One of your friends is often late for important appointments. What advice would you give your friend about how to solve this problem? Obviously, this is a giving advice style question. Here's the answer. I'll read it in a moment, but as you can see, I began with a main point. I would advise my friend to. I continued with a transition. I would suggest this for two main reasons. I gave my first reason. I gave an example. I gave my second reason. I used to be specific. I used a few other techniques. I'm going to talk about those in a minute. All right, so next up, I'm going to read the answer all together, and we'll see if I can finish it in 45 seconds like on the real test. And I will time it along the way. Let's get started. I would advise my friend to use a smartphone to deal with this problem. I would suggest this for two main reasons. First, she can use a calendar application on her phone to create a schedule of upcoming appointments. For example, I enter all of my meetings and deadlines into a free app at the beginning of each month, so I always know what is coming up. As a result, I am never caught flat-footed by some important event or get-together I've forgotten about. Second, she can utilize the phone's GPS to make sure she gets to places on time. To be specific, together with a map application, the GPS will tell her the fastest way to get to where she needs to be. Moreover, it can warn her of traffic problems on the way. Okay, I finished that one in exactly 45 seconds. If you speak slower than me, I think you know what to delete. Delete the transition to save a couple of full seconds, and you can probably just shorten the personal example and the elaboration down to one sentence. The sample is meant to be a guide of a perfect ideal answer. You may not be able to create something quite at this level, but do your best. Treat it as an ideal. Now, before we move on, I want to highlight a few techniques that I used to make this a stronger answer. First of all, I use the word so here. That's a conjunction. I used that to create a compound sentence. Other conjunctions include little words like so, but, if, for, or. I want you to use those words to create compound sentences to make your grammar a little more advanced, a little more comprehensive. The graders are looking for things like that. I don't want to turn this into a grammar lesson, but I will include a link in the video description which talks about this point a little bit more. Next up, you can see I highlighted as a result and moreover. These are transitional words, also referred to as discourse words. They include things like however, in addition, consequently, therefore. These little words give your answer more structure, they give your answer more organization, and they will probably increase your score. I'll also include a link in the video description which gives you a few more of these words. Try to use a couple of them in your answer. Finally, I highlighted the idiom caught flat-footed. Now, in the past, I used to tell students not to bother with idioms. They're hard to use. They will probably increase your score a little bit. They'll make your answer sound a lot more natural. That said, be careful. Know what you're talking about. If you don't think you can use the idiom properly, maybe just leave it out. It is a technique that will help you get a better score, but just be careful, okay? All right. So again, a few guidelines for answering these questions. Avoid repeating words. Try to vary your vocabulary as much as you can. As I said, use discourse phrases, as a result, consequently, moreover, therefore. Use a few conjunctions to create compound sentences. Don't copy from the prompt. Paraphrase and use synonyms. And as I said, idioms help, but be damn sure that you know what you're doing. This is the first year that I've recommended using idioms. Please don't let me down, or I'll take it out of the 2019 edition of the video. I promise you that. All right, let's conclude the video by talking a little bit more about the advantages and disadvantages style question. This one's new. It requires a slightly different template. Here's the template. It goes like this. There are certainly both benefits and drawbacks of something. First of all, one advantage is, give me 1 or 3 sentences. However, a disadvantage is, give me a few sentences. Overall, though, I guess it's better to, and then just give me 1 sentence. You don't have to justify your choice here because you've already done it by talking about the advantage. Here's a sample. Some people like to take classes online instead of attending them in person. What are the advantages and disadvantages of this trend? Use details and examples in your response. So, putting the template to use, we come up with something like this. There are certainly both benefits and drawbacks of. You notice I paraphrased. I didn't say advantages and disadvantages. I said benefits and drawbacks. Remember how I said don't copy from the prompt? Well, there you go. First of all, an advantage is. However, a possible disadvantage is. Overall, though, I guess it is better. All right, I'll read this one through and I will time it as well. Again, we only have 45 seconds, so don't speak slowly. Here goes. There are certainly both benefits and drawbacks of choosing to study online instead of taking classes on campus. First of all, an advantage is that we can get an education even if we have a full-time job. Usually, classes on campus occur during the daytime, which makes it impossible to balance both employment and a busy academic schedule. In contrast, if we study online, we can complete them when we get home from work in the evening. However, a possible disadvantage is that we won't interact with classmates. Sharing our ideas and viewpoints with like-minded peers is a big part of an education, but this obviously won't happen if we don't go to a university in person. Overall, though, I guess it is better to take online classes. And again, I finished in exactly 45 seconds. If you speak slower than me, you will have to shorten. Don't change the template, but just shorten each of the reasons. Basically, you want to cut out the last part or the last sentence of each reason, or one of the reasons. All right, again, I highlighted the use of a couple of conjunctions like which and but. I highlighted the use of a discourse phrase, a transitional phrase. which is in contrast. I also underlined a few things to show you how I am avoiding the repetition of words. So instead of saying study, I changed it to get an education. Instead of using classmates again, I changed it to peers. I think instead of saying school, I could say university. Or instead of saying campus again, I could say university. So again, try to avoid repeating words if you can. I know it's difficult on the fly to replace words, but make that your main goal. Make that an ideal that you choose to pursue. Vary your vocabulary as much as possible. All right, so that is just about it. I've shown you how to answer all of the question styles, including the new question style. And I think you should be able to answer TOEFL Speaking 1 a little bit more easily now. If you want to find more of this nonsense, please visit me at TOEFLresources.com. If you go there, you can see a text version of this guide with templates that are easily copied into your own documents. You will also find guides to the writing section of the test, and you will be able to sign up for speaking and writing evaluation from me. All right, I'm going to leave it at that, but if you have any questions, please leave a comment below. I promise I will answer all of them eventually. Take care then. Goodbye.